Hi everyone, welcome to Dustin the Blind Minnesotan podcast. Today I want to tell you about the state of Minnesota because, you know, we are a very big mystery to most people because most people don't know about our state. And I'm gonna tell you about Minnesota, so we're not a mystery to you guys anymore in the South. So today, I'm going to be explaining to you some of what's in the state, what makes us famous. I'm going to talk about St. Cloud, where I grew up, and all that stuff. So then you guys can kind of know more about me and the state of Minnesota in the blind visually impaired community. So the state of Minnesota is split into two halves. You have the east half, that's the old part of the state, and that is the St. Paul half of the state. And then you have the west side of the state, that's the new side of the state. And that area's major city is the city of Minneapolis. So when you read the news and you're researching about Minnesota, when you're reading things that happen in Minneapolis, that's happening in the west side of the state. When you're reading things about what's happening in St. Paul, that's happening on that east side of the state. And living on the east and west sides of the state makes a big difference because the east side of the state was settled a long time ago by France. And then when the United States bought the Midwest, a big chunk of the Midwest from France, they bought everything in like East Minnesota. So East Minnesota is like the Midwest. West Minnesota is like, it's different than the standard Midwest culture because Minneapolis / West Minnesota never really had like French ties, never really had French influence, but East Minnesota did because that's where, the French settled and built up the city. So the most major cities in East Minnesota are, St. Paul, our capital. And then we have, let me make sure that I'm not going too far here. Duluth, that's in East Minnesota. And, and then here the river goes here, goes do 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 do. And then let's see, and then Rochester is considered technically West Minnesota because it's on the west side of the river. So that doesn't count. So when we're talking about things on the west side of the river, we have Rochester, we have Mankato, we have Minneapolis, we have St. Cloud, we have Alexandria, we have up here Brainerd, we have Bemidji, but the biggest difference is that a lot of the big towns in the west side of the river, they're not tall. They're more like suburban built. So St. Cloud does have a lot of people, but there's not a lot of people stacked on top of each other. It's big, wide. While the cities on the East Minnesota / the St. Paul side, they're not built wide, they're skinny and tall. Because they're built more European style, where they're skinny and tall. So where you live in Minnesota does make a difference because of the kind of influences you have. Like a lot of people on here, the west side of the Mississippi River, their ancestries are from Sweden, France, Germany, England, and some French people. Well, a lot of the people on the east side of the river are they're like French, Native American, African American, more that kind of mixture. So each side of the Mississippi River that's right here has some kind of like different demographics, based on where you kind of grow up. And then sorry on my bookmarks here. But see all these bookmarks right here? This is where because these are restaurants I want to check out one day. This is where the blue line train is. That will take you from the airport here in Bloomington. That's on the Minneapolis side of the river. So it's in West Minnesota to downtown Minneapolis. And this right here is the D-Line bus. And the D-Line bus takes you from downtown Minneapolis through all the neighborhoods here in Richfield, a suburb of Minneapolis, and then takes you this way into Bloomington. So, and Bloomington is amazing city. I really like Bloomington. It's not as big as like Minneapolis, St. Paul. It is not big enough to be like on the major city lists I just list, but it's not bad. And then there's Fort Snelling. There's the airport, and then these right down here is the Mall of America in Bloomington, and this is where I used to work. So that's why you see like all these like things bookmarked down here, because I used to work down here for like years, and when customers would ask me where can I stay, I would pull up my Google Maps and I would tell them, see, like right here's the picture. Here's like the train in the picture for this hotel. So that is Bloomington and stuff. And today, now that you kind of know how Minnesota is divided, I can tell you about my area of St. Cloud. And St. Cloud is on Highway 94. So, because 94 splits into two. Once you get into the metro, it goes from 94 and it splits off into 694. And then it merges back into 94 again. See right here, it's 94, 94, 94, 94 until it gets into Brooklyn Center. And then right when it hits the Mississippi River. And once it hits the Mississippi River, it turns into 694 as it goes onto the east side of the river into the St. Paul Metro. And here, if like once you hit Brooklyn Center and you hit south, it stays like going along the river, it stays regular 94. So that's what I'm saying is because the Mississippi River is such a major divider in the state of Minnesota. If you grew up in East Minnesota, in the east side of the Mississippi River, and you have the St. Paul influence, the French, the African American, and the Asian kind of, the Hmong community influence, you're going to have a different experience than where I grew up in like West Minnesota. That's why, see, if you follow this Mississippi River all the way from Minneapolis, it will take you forever, but you will end up in St. Cloud, where I'm from. So then when like you hop on 694 here, that turns into 94. When you're going up, You go through like Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park. I used to live in Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park. And Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park are very African American communities. If you are African American and you want to move to African American led communities, you want to go to Brooklyn Park or you want to go to Brooklyn Center, and they have buses that take you to downtown Minneapolis, where from there you can get to downtown St. Paul. And then from downtown St. Paul you can go into the St. Paul side of the river. And then Brooklyn Park, they have a 724 bus that takes you from Brooklyn Park to Brooklyn Center. And then from there you can go into downtown Minneapolis. And then Brooklyn Park is like where the rich African Americans live. Brooklyn Center is where the poor African Americans live. Because a lot of people in Brooklyn Park, they own their townhomes, there's single family homes, there's a lot of shopping malls and all that stuff. And in Brooklyn Center, there's not that much opportunity because it's mostly like apartments and single family homes, because a lot of the people living there, I'm going to say there's not enough income there to support a Walmart. And Walmart's made for low-income families, and when a Walmart can't support, when a community can't support a Walmart, and when Walmart can't support a community, you kind of know how broke they are, because Walmart survives off broke people. And then Brooklyn Park, they're more higher incomes. They have Cubs, for example, and Cubs is a high-end grocery store. They have Walmart, they have Target, and Target's another high-end grocery store. They have an Asian grocery store called Sun's, and that's a high-end Asian grocery store. They have another one over near the Brooklyn, it's called Dragon Market or something like that, and that is a high-end grocery store. So like Brooklyn Park is more of a high-end African American neighborhood, and Brooklyn Center is like a low-income African American neighborhood. And then when you're going down 94/694, eventually because it's 694 until you hit on the St. Paul side until you hit the Mississippi River, and then it turns into 94. Because 694 on St. Paul side hits the river, then it turns into 94. And then after you go through Brooklyn Park on 94, you get to Maple Grove. Yay! I lived in Maple Grove a little bit. Maple Grove is a high-end Asian community and a high-end white community. So when you're in Maple Grove, you will find a lot of people from India. And they're doctors, or nurses, or IT professionals. They have a huge temple. It's a very high-end white and Asian community, and a lot of them they work in downtown Minneapolis. So they hop in their car or they hop on the city bus, and it goes down Highway 94, and then they go down to 94 from Brooklyn Center down to downtown Minneapolis. Or if they work on the St. Paul side, they cross over the river in Brooklyn Center, and then 94 becomes 694, and then they go down 694 to downtown St. Paul. So Maple Grove is a really high-end Asian and white community. And then if you keep going up 94, you go through there's that right there. That's the temple I was telling you about. I've been there about twice. It's not a bad area. And Maple Grove is a very populated area, but but it's just, it's spread out. And then I lived in the city of Rogers for a little bit before my vision got bad enough and I needed to live in a major area where there's public transportation. But before my vision went bad, I lived in Rogers. Rogers is more of a middle class white and Mexican neighborhood. So Mexicans live here, and a lot of middle income white people live here. So so this is not a bad area to live either. And then like you go up 94, and then you end up in St. Michael. And St. Michael is a middle class white community. They're starting to get more diverse out there because Minneapolis is becoming so expensive that people are trying to leave the city and move into cheaper places like St. Michael. But what's happening is, but a lot of people they're not trying to go past St. Michael because when you're trying to get to work in Minneapolis down 94, getting St. Michael's is kind of far. And then you keep going down 94, and then I used to live in Albertville for a little bit when I was a really little kid, and Albertville is just it's pretty much another neighborhood for like a middle class neighborhood for like white people, but it's not just white people, but most people, this is Minnesota, most of the people who live here are white. So and then the homes out here, like for middle class, and if an African American family wants to move in, no one's not going to stop you, and people are going to be really nice to you because they're not really people in Albertville. There's still enough people there that they're not really racist or anything. It's just that most of the Minnesota's population is white people, because most of Minnesota's population is white people. When you pretty much leave the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, you're mostly going to see white people. And then you go through, these are all cornfields and stuff. Now like once you get past like Albertville, I call it farm country. And then here's the Mississippi River. So everything on like this side of the Mississippi River, that's considered East Minnesota. Everything on this side of the river is considered West Minnesota. So then here, Monticello is kind of in a weird spot because Monticello has some parts in East Minnesota and it has some parts in West Minnesota. But you can see Big Lake here is in East Minnesota. And then most of Monticello is in West Minnesota. And then like see how when like you keep going north, the Highway 94 keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and thinner and thinner and thinner. And then Clearwater is also like a city that goes in West Minnesota and East Minnesota. Once cause the populations are so small that it makes no sense having a small town in East Minnesota and having a small town in West Minnesota when the town's so small. If you combine both sides of the river, they can get more resources. So that's what pretty much happens. And then because when like your town is really small and you only have like 2 gas stations, one Coburn's grocery store. Coburn's is a high-end grocery store. One Coburn's grocery store and a truck stop. It's and the people over here still need city services. It's just easier saying, okay, your closest city is Clearwater. We'll just build a bridge over the river and people can just drive over the river. Then like you go up here and then you see how like the highway curves a little bit to get away from the river. And then it goes this way a little bit. And then it curves back up. and then see how like you can see all these like little towns along it. But if you keep going, you kind of miss St. Cloud. So when like you're in 94, you want to get off like right here. It's called the mixed stop truck stop. And the mixed stop truck stop is where people that want to get to St. Cloud that take 94 have to get off. Because if you don't get off here, you're going to end up way in North Dakota, just like what I showed you. So so then you get off here and you kind of go down Highway 75 all the way until you get into St. Cloud. And St. Cloud is, I'm going to say, it's a college town. I'm going to admit it. I grew up in a college town. Yep. And it's the city started because when the French came to Minnesota for trade, the French used the Mississippi River for trade. And the French let the Native Americans keep the west half, and the French and the Native Americans shared the east half of the state. But when the French people were coming to Duluth, when the French people were landing up in Duluth, and they were trying to get their goods in, they needed some place on the Native American side of the river to sell the goods. So St. Cloud started off as like a trading post. So yay, I lived in a place that started off as a trading post. And so then the French would go there with their guns, their gunpowders, and all that stuff, and they would sell it to the Native Americans. So the Native Americans could use that gunpowder and stuff to fight the English settlers that were on the East Coast. So, and then Native Americans would also use that gunpowder to hunt buffalo, you mean, and all these different things. And then the Native Americans would use that to sell things to the French. And then the French would sail across the river here back to their side of the river. So St. Cloud started as like a trading post. And also people who live in North Minnesota, they would used to ship things, the French people and Native Americans who lived up in Bemidji and Brainerd area, they would ship things down the river, and the Native Americans and the white people living in the St. Cloud area would then get the stuff that they were shipping, and then from there they would ship it up the major roads they built to get up to Duluth. And then once they're in Duluth, they would sell the stuff to Europe. So St. Cloud the reason why it was pretty much made because of ancient trading routes with Native Americans. And then from there, there's so many people there that we built our own college. We built our own hospital. We built a bunch of single-family homes. We built a couple apartment buildings. We built a bunch of parks, like what I have bookmarked here. I have a Asian restaurant bookmarked here because when I lived in St. Cloud, I used to go there for my food. I have another park here. I have Car Hop because when I lived up in St. Cloud and I was almost thinking about driving before I figured out my vision was bad, I was planning to buy a Car Hop. And then we have another park. Oh yeah, I forgot we had condos too. So if you want to buy some condos and you want to live in a condo and you're a senior, you can live in some condos. There's apartments. You mean, I kind of bookmarked some of these. So if there's like an Asian grocery store too, so if like you're Asian and you want to live in St. Cloud, you guys can get some food there, because St. Cloud, where I grew up, technically grew up in a small town of Waite Park that's a suburb of St. Cloud, that's even smaller than St. Cloud. But when I grew up, St. Cloud had like Hmong, not regular, they had a bunch of Asians, but the biggest Asian group was Hmong. They had Latinos from South America, Mexico. We even had some Cubans. We had white people, of course. We had a bunch of Somalians from Somalia, because we had factories in St. Cloud to process the corn and stuff, because we grow all the corn fields out here. They need a factory after the farmers grow them. They need a factory to ship the food to, and have the food be cut off the cob and put in cans. So then we need factory workers. So then we took a lot of people. Not a lot of white people want to do factory work. So then the city took whoever was willing to do factory work. The Somalian community was willing to do factory work. The Asian community was willing to do factory work, and the Hispanic community from Cuba, South America, Central America, I forgot about Central America, and Mexico. Those people were willing to do the factory work. So then they came into town and they worked at the factory. They had kids, and suddenly now they're part of the culture of St. Cloud. So St. Cloud is way smaller than Minneapolis and St. Paul and Duluth and whatever, but St. Cloud is one of the most diverse, not one of the most diverse cities, but in my opinion, it's one of the most diverse cities in Minnesota, because in St. Cloud, we never really did, okay, we had redlining, but our redlining wasn't as bad as redlining in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, because we grew up with, our parents grew up with Latinos working with them in the factory. Our parents were, and other Hispanic groups. Our parents grew up with Hmong people working in the factories with them. You mean, so we have racial problems like everywhere else in Minnesota. But our racial problems, and we did have some redlining, and we still have those problems, but it's up in St. Cloud. But it's not as bad, as I'm going to say, as the Minneapolis-St. Paul area is. The Minneapolis-St. Paul area is still bad, because the reason why a lot of people, African Americans, move to Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, is because they have lower incomes. And the homes in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center are older, and so the value of them is lower. And if you have lower incomes, you need to buy older homes that have less value. And what happens is one group of people pretty much ends up living there. And like a lot of the Indian community that ends up living in Maple Grove is because in India their parents gave them an education in IT. And then or nursing, like, and they became a doctor and stuff. By the time they come to Minnesota and they get a job here, they're already making money. So, and then because they're making money, they can buy newer homes and newer cars and newer things in a newer, more expensive neighborhood. So Minneapolis area, even the St. Paul area, there's more redlining, even now social redlining, even if the banks are not doing anymore, than the St. Cloud area. That's why I tell people of all races, if you move to Minnesota, even if you're blind, you're visually impaired, or you're not, you want to move up to the St. Cloud area, because the St. Cloud area is is different than other parts of the state. And then St. Cloud still has public transportation options. They have like the city bus, and they have a taxi service called Dial-A-Ride. And Dial-A-Ride is like their version of our Metro Mobility. So you call them 2 days ahead of time. You tell them, hey, I want to go on this date. I want to go from here to here. And if they have a driver, they approve your appointment and they take you. If they don't have a driver, they turn down your appointment and they don't take you. So they have a company called Dial-A-Ride that does that service. Well, in the Minneapolis and St. Paul area, we have a company called Metro Mobility. So when like you live up in the St. Cloud area, you just call Dial-A-Ride and apply, and you just hop on their service. And if their service is busy that day you want to go, you just hop on the city bus. So, or what you do is you take the city bus to places, and then the days that you want to go someplace that doesn't have a city bus line, you just take Dial-A-Ride or you Uber. And so a lot of people, if they're going to move to Minnesota, I would like say stay out of the Minneapolis and St. Paul area, and I would advise you to come to the St. Cloud area. And because you can take, if you want to hang out in Minneapolis, you can take 94 in, or if you want to hang out in the St. Paul area, you can take Highway 10. Because if you hop in St. Paul area, because Highway 10 is on the east side of the river in the East Minnesota part that I'm breaking up to. So once you go over the river in downtown St. Cloud, you can hit Highway 10 and also go all the way to St. Paul. So and 94 will take you into downtown Minneapolis. So then, so if you want to go into downtown St. Paul or downtown Minneapolis and party for the weekend, just book a hotel room. And then you can drive down there, and if you don't want to drive, there's a company called the Jefferson Bus. They'll pick you up in downtown St. Cloud, and then they'll take Highway 10 to downtown St. Paul if you want to go downtown St. Paul, or it'll take 15 to go to the or whatever major road from downtown St. Cloud to 94 that they want to take, and take you to downtown Minneapolis. So I very encourage a lot of people moving to Minnesota to move to St. Cloud. And St. Cloud has an airport. They have all this stuff that it's amazing. And then I grew up in the suburb of St. Cloud called Waite Park. And Waite Park is like, it's built similarly to St. Cloud, but it just has less people. So it has like, grocery stores and stuff. But if you want to go to the hospital, you have to take the bus or you have to drive to St. Cloud. If you want the airport, you have to hop on a bus or drive to St. Cloud. So you have to go to St. Cloud for a lot of things, but they still have some basic healthcare clinics. They still have grocery stores. They have a shopping mall called Crossroads. So if you want to go shopping, you don't have to go to St. Cloud. You just drive to Crossroads. And then they have a bunch of strip malls in Waite Park. So if you want to go shopping, there's plenty of stuff that in Waite Park. But if you want to go to the dentist, you have to go to St. Cloud. But be lucky, driving between the two cities only takes you about 15 minutes at the longest. So that's why I'm saying is and it's not bad, and it's on the west side of the state. So you're gonna get newer homes, newer construction, and all that stuff. And when I lived in Waite Park, I lived down here by Corey Park. So in this little place called Beauclair Estates, right here. So when I used to want to go to town, see how 94 is here? So St. Cloud is up here, Waite Park's here, 94 to Minneapolis is right here. So 94 to Minneapolis is like is was so to me it was easier just going to 90 when I lived in Waite Park. It was just easier going to 94 and then going to other places like Monticello, Clearwater, and all that to do your shopping than it was to go to St. Cloud because I was just so close to 94. Or I can go to St. Joseph. My dad used to go sometimes go to St. Joseph to go to do shopping or stuff because if you see where I'm at, so here's this major park. It separates us from the major population parts of St. Cloud, and it separates us from the major parts of Waite Park. This because this flag here is in a major park in Waite Park. So so then because this area does because so far out here it didn't have public transportation. So every time I want to go into town and do things by myself, my dad have to drive me to downtown Waite Park or to downtown St. Cloud where there's civilization, it's where I can hop on a bus and do something. But if I was in St. Cloud area, I would move to downtown Waite Park, so here around this area, or downtown St. Cloud around this area. Because a lot of the people here, they do like $15 an hour jobs, minimum wage jobs. So if you're disabled, you're like living off Social Security and working part-time, this area is super affordable, like the Waite Park and St. Cloud areas. But if you go out here to where I used to live, it's going to be you're definitely going to be able to live off it, but you're not going to have the public transit infrastructure that you need. And then, and then I grew up with a park in front of me and a bunch of cornfields in the back. And then I always used to hear 94 traffic. Vroom, 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 driving by. So I had no complaints. So then, I'm going to pop up some pictures of here so then you guys can see how Waite Park looks, how Belclare Acres looks like. Because, I'm here I'm doing this so you guys can kind of see that I'm a legit blind and visually impaired person. And then, you guys can kind of see how I kind of live like and how I got the experience that I got. So, and then, here's, the trailer homes / mobile homes they call now because they have to be politically correct. And see how nice they are. There's like a bathtub, a toilet, a nice sink, and all that stuff. This is probably their showroom trailer. And see how they have these nice couches, like a lot. And this is when I lived there. They were just putting in this playground. So when I lived there, because when I lived there before, the playground was in the middle of a cornfield because it was trailer house and cornfield then the playground because the farmer next to us used to own the trailer park. So then the guy who owned it eventually put it in the trailer park. So then you didn't have to worry about his kids playing in his fields. And then a trailer house, if who doesn't know, it's pretty much like you're living in a shed on bricks. So what they do is they take RV plumbing. You know how RVs, when you go to an RV park, they have things underground, and you take this hose and you plug it into your RV, and you get electricity and water through the hose. Trailer houses pretty much work like the same way, but they don't have wheels and an engine and a driver's seat. So living in a trailer house is like living in a very big RV that you take the wheels off and the engines off. So what happens is underneath your trailer house, they have plugins that look like RV plugs that you use in an RV park. And then what you do is you tell them how high you want your house. And they put bricks how high you want your house. Lots of bricks, not like cheap Walmart bricks. They actually get good quality bricks that you can find at Home Depot, Menards, or and you see them at like kind of like construction sites. And then what they do is and then they like line up with a crane and they put your house on top of those bricks. And then they have someone go underneath and then plug in like the RV like outlets and plumbing into like your home. And then they add a skirt. So this right here, there's a skirt. Because if you didn't add a skirt, people can see underneath your home. So then you pay for a skirt where they measure the distance between the ground and how high up you want your trailer. And then they put a skirt on the bottom. So then you don't have everyone looking underneath your house. And this is when I lived there, they didn't have the sign, but this is a new sign. That means it tells me they're investing. And this green building is the clubhouse. So when I lived there, they had a swimming pool in there for the kids to use. They had a basketball court. They had an arcade. It was so when because think about when like you live in the middle of a cornfield and next to a park and it's winter and you have all these bored kids, they normally get into trouble. So this community center was made to keep us entertained so we don't get in trouble. And oh God, this is one of my neighbors. They probably don't know their house is on Google Maps. So and then some people had garages and some people didn't. But for safety, your garage could never be attached to your mobile home because if there's a fire or whatever in your garage, you don't want it spreading it to your mobile home. If there's a fire in your mobile home, you don't want it spreading it to your garage. So then like if you don't have them attached and you want them far enough distance, so then because either of them don't start on fire. Because in a trailer house, everything is stored in your garage if you want one, like your lawnmower. Your lawnmower has glass, like gas, your weed whacker and stuff. And you normally park outside because your garage is more storage. And some people didn't have garages where I lived, and some people did. But to have a garage, you had to pay more in lot rent because I don't know, it's just because. And then this is a very nice trailer home, but there's some shitty trailer homes and there's some good trailer homes. And when I was coming home, I always knew when I was coming home because this water tower that said Belclay Acres on it was so tall. After you left downtown Way Park and you went through the park, you could see this water tower over everything. So that's when I knew that cool, I'm almost home was based on just the pictures and stuff. Like and on the water tower, you can see the water tower. And I kind of miss this place because I grew up in this place until I was 15 years old. And this is like I don't mind trailer parks. I grew up in them my whole life. And in my head, I still identify as a redneck kid. Because that's a joke, because, rednecks live in trailer parks. And some people get offended by that. I kind of embraced it because that's my identity. And then here, is the side. I know the sidewalks are so pathetic, but it's like a one person can barely walk on them. But at least in the trailer park, normally it's so little traffic that you can just walk on the side of the road. And then here's more pictures. And then right behind these trees, see, this is the edge of the trailer park. So right behind these trees, there's a giant, massive cornfield. Dang, they're putting some nice new trailers in here. And I remember when they put this playground in. And this was our basketball court. Dang, they're actually improving the neighborhood. And a lot of my neighbors here were Latino, in other parts of America. And when like you come into the trailer park and you take the main entrance is like right there. You come in and whatever, and there's this gray building. This is the main office, and the building across from it is like a little mom and pop grocery store that's ran by the trailer park. Some guy uploaded his pictures of his RV. That's funny. And sometimes in a trailer park, you will get neighbors like this, I call them the hoarder neighbors, where they put because in a trailer park, if you don't have a garage and you don't have money to pay extra for a garage, there's nowhere for you to put your stuff. And then, so then what happens is you have weirdos like this who are like, okay, I don't have no storage. I'm just gonna throw all my junk in totes in my front yard or in bags in my front yard. And then next thing you know, their front yard looks like trash because their front yard ends up being their storage unit. And that's how like you get scary looking things like this because they have nowhere to put their junk. And I always my dad always told me once you get that much junk, it tells me that you have too much crap. So then you have to get rid of it. And then these are the new apartments because Belclair Acres used to have two sites when I was a kid, and they knocked down the other one and they put up apartments. And this right here is how the gym that I went to looks like. And then this was when I remember seeing this house. This was one of my neighbors. And see, I had a one stall garage as a kid. They have the ching ching because they have two stall garage. In a trailer park, you can tell who has the most money by the size of their trailer and what kind of garage they have, and if they don't have a garage. Pav 94. And this is the picture of the park, like across the street from the trailer park. And as based on these pictures, I'm showing you these pictures as enforcement to my ideas. See how there's a lot of Hispanic families here, a lot of white families here, and stuff. It's just very mixed community. And I know St. Cloud gets a bad rap because of, oh, racism. But that's all the baby boomers that are dying. A lot of young people my age, we don't care. And then see how this person decorated the top of their trailer house. Let me see if I know that kid. Nope, he must moved in after I left. Oh, okay, I remember that. That was the fire. Oh, right here's my old trailer house. So, this is the trailer house I grew up in. That's our old garage. This is an all seasons patio, and we grew up in a 2-bedroom. So what my dad was, he asked the trailer park for permission. We built like an all seasons patio, and that was our storage zone. Because my dad liked to park in the garage, so he parked in the garage, and we built an all seasons patio, and we put like little shelves in there, and that was our storage. If my dad says if it couldn't fit in there, we didn't need it. And then, we had 2 bedrooms, the laundry room's about here, our kitchen was about here, and stuff. So that was Belclay Acres, and my grandma lived here in downtown Wake Park. So then my dad would drive us, and then we would go this way over the freeway here, and then we'll pop up right next to Fleet Farm, and then we would go see my grandma. And then I went to school up here, and then when like you kept on going down this road, you end up at the VA where the veterans go, and then right across from the street from the VA, there's Apollo High School right here, where I went to school. And Apollo High School is, in my opinion, the poorest high school in St. Cloud. But and then then Tech is like the richest, not the richest, but the nice high school in St. Cloud. But because it's on this side over here, and I didn't mind it because, at least at Apollo, everyone was broke. So we couldn't make fun of each other, haha, you're rich and I'm poor kind of thing, because everyone was broke. Um, and then I have some family who lives here in Sartell, and Sartell's on the west side of the river. And Sartell is just a farming town. It's like they have people there, but it's just single family homes in the middle of cornfield kind of thing. And then I have some family that's from Sauk Rapids. Sauk Rapids is a suburb of St. Cloud, and they're slowly growing because St. Cloud and Way Park are not building enough housing for people. And so people want to live near St. Cloud and Way Park, but there's nowhere to live. And Sartell's not building a lot of homes for people for either. But Sauk Rapids is like, sure, we'll build everyone homes. And that's on the east, and that's in East Minnesota. But it's only like a 15-minute drive over the bridge to get to like deep into St. Cloud. So then a lot of young people my age are like, we want homes, we want condos, and we want townhomes because we are not renting forever. And if you're not going to build us homes, we're moving somewhere else. So then, here's Sauk Rapids. I never lived in Sauk Rapids, but plenty of my cousins have, and some of my cousins still live there. And to me, it's a nah, because Sauk Rapids has like zero public transportation. They have like, it's a brand new city. Everyone over there drives or takes Ubers, or it's a really wealthy area. Let me see. This is where my mom comes from. My mom is an East Minnesota, and she's very far away from St. Cloud, where she's from. She's from country, like you barely get any cell phone service kind of country. I grew up in a town, so I had cell phone service, I had internet, I had blah blah blah, and I was, even in full. And my mom is like 52, so of course makes sense. She was born before the internet. But this is our family church, St. John's Catholic Church. That's our family church, the Bechtold Church. And then because half the people who go there related to me. So and then my dad is from Clearwater, and Clearwater is more towards Monticello. But at that time, Clearwater was like Foley, middle of nowhere, just cornfields and stuff. So then, my family is all from the St. Cloud area, and the only reason why I didn't stay was because at that time when I lived there, they didn't have that much public transportation. But now that St. Cloud's getting bigger, they have a college and a university, whatever. If people are coming to Minnesota, this is the part of the state I would tell them to move to. Because if you move to Rochester, it's a major town, but they don't have as good public transportation as St. Cloud. If you move to Mankato, it's a major city, but they don't have the public transportation like St. Cloud. If you move to Duluth, it's a major city, but they don't have the public transportation like St. Cloud. If you move to Brainerd, it doesn't have good public transportation like St. Cloud. Bemidji doesn't have good public transportation like St. Cloud. And Alexandria does not have good public transportation like St. Cloud. So if you move to St. Cloud in Minnesota, you're not going to get the Minneapolis drama. You're not going to get the St. Paul drama. You're not going to get redlining what's happening in St. Paul. You're not going to get the redlining that's happening in Minneapolis. St. Cloud is, like, in my opinion, the best place to live because it's diverse, it has public transportation, they're building new apartments, new condos, new stuff, and they're mixing it with the old stuff. And just the discrimination there is less. And this is why I'm telling you guys about St. Cloud. Please take it seriously. If you're moving to Minnesota, this is the area I'm telling you about. No one, all the fancy people on YouTube are not going to tell you about St. Cloud, because St. Cloud, when they sell you a house, it's not as worth as much, so they're not going to get as much money. If they convince you to buy a house in an expensive neighborhood like Maple Grove, those house sellers and buyers are going to make more money, and then they're going to steal more money from you for no good reason when you can live in a more cheaper area like St. Cloud. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Bye bye.